So we are live in the Kitty Boss private Facebook group, as well as Cat Lady Justin's Facebook page, as well as on YouTube on my Justin Answer channel. I have yet to figure out how to add the other one because I would like to do that. But yeah, so today is, of course, our second Friday of the month. When we're recording this, I'll upload this to the podcast at a later date on Catterday, so tomorrow. And so we are here, of course, with Dr. Rachel Geller, the amazing, the talented, the beautiful cat behaviorist and chaplain. And I'm Justin, and I'm once again wearing a cat tie. Today it's this one. I have about 20 of them, so don't know if you'll like it, but even if you don't, I'm still going to wear it because I like this one. But that's who we are today. And last month we discussed all of the relevant things having to do with Christmas, with New Year's, with fireworks, with presents, and what to do with your cats. So we won't discuss that today, obviously, because that's now behind us. But I just wanted to find out how your holidays went, how your New Year's went, Dr. Rachel.
Oh, I had a lovely New Year's Eve. A little quieter than usual because of the, current state of COVID, but it was lovely. We had a quiet New Year's Eve. I spent a lot of the night with my cats. I have a little guy with a tumpy behind me right now.
I see him.
Yes. Oh, wait.
Hey, ooh, look at that.
Yeah, so it's a very cold day here in the Northeast in the United States. It's very cold, it's very blustery, so he stays warm on the radiator. But I had a lovely New Year's, thank you for asking, and wished for a 2022 filled with good health, happiness, and lots of colors. And
that's all.
Same for you as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had very similar. It was very quiet. It was me with Emily and Charlotte. Although I have a wonderful friend of mine who's a very talented locksmith. So shout out to Jake if you're listening, although he's a dog person, so I doubt he's listening, but just in case. And because he's a locksmith, obviously, Christmas is like a work day for him because that's like he can charge more money, obviously, and also lots of people get locked out. so he's constantly working. So he managed to take an hour, stop by, have a coffee with me, as well as the mince pies that I baked. I baked the original Victorian recipe, so it actually has both the fruit and the beef in it. It's amazing, by the way. Cold, obviously, and it's sweet. So it's wonderful. I don't make it every year, but this year I wanted to make it. So I made it this year. He had some. Hopefully he didn't give any to the dog, because dogs shouldn't have raisins. But anyway, so he had some, and we had a lovely time just having a quick chat, and then off he went to go work some more. So that's pretty much the only visitors I had, other than, of course, spending time with my Emily and Charlotte. And New Year's was also the same. Because of the fireworks and all that, I just was here with my cats, as I prefer anyway. And we had a great time together, ringing in the new year, just me and the ladies. So that's what we did. And I think you mentioned to me that you were going to go somewhere interesting.
I did go somewhere interesting. I went to an exhibit in downtown Boston called the Van Gogh Immersive Experience.
That's right. Yeah. And how was that?
It was lovely to be immersed in Van Gogh. So if you're not familiar with it, they take the actual paintings and they're literally, it's in a huge warehouse. So it's huge, floor to ceiling. The paintings are literally floor to ceiling high. They go over the top of the ceiling. They are along the bottom of the floor. So when you're sitting down or walking around, you're actually feel like you're in the painting. You're immersed in his work. So you could think of some of his more famous works. Starry Night comes to mind, and you're actually scrolling through the Starry Night. It was really a lovely experience, and I think for again times it was in a large warehouse. It was social distant, it was a nice big space, so you felt safe while you could have a nice time.
That sounds amazing. I'd love to visit that one day. That sounds really, really cool.
Right.
So for this month, it's the month of January, as you know, the month of New Year's resolutions, as it were. I think I know what we'll talk about next month, February. Love Valentine's Day. But as far as this month goes, are there any sort of New Year's resolutions that you would like to share with us for your cats or for other people's cats? Like maybe a suggestion? Because I might think of some, but I wanted to ask you first if you have any sort of resolutions. It's not a wish. It's something that we're determined to do this year.
Well, I think if I can get one thing across to my clients who come to me is that cat behavior, people think of, their cat's misbehaving. So if there's one resolution I could make, it would be that everybody understands that cats don't misbehave the way we think of misbehaving. They're not doing things in terms of thinking this is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. If a cat is engaged in some type of misbehavior, it's because he's trying to resolve some problem in his life as a cat and not as a person. So cats don't deliberately misbehave. They don't deliberately try to do something wrong. If they use the litter box, it's not like the cat is thinking to himself, I'm going to use the litter box because that's the right thing to do. He's using the litter box because the litter itself meets his needs, the box is the right size, the box is in the right location, and so forth. So it's really important, and that would be my resolution, to get more people to understand that when a cat is, in our eyes, misbehaving, he's really not. He's engaging in some type of behavior to solve some problem he's presented with, and he's trying to solve it in the way he knows how as a cat. But I'd like to add one extra little thing about the new year that I have going on. I am starting my own nonprofit, and it's called All Cats All the Time. This is my first public announcement, Cat Lady Justin.
Ooh.
Save it for the kitty boss. So, as you know, I'm a cat behaviorist. Many times I'm suggesting to people, they might need certain things to solve a behavior. Maybe they need a litter box. Maybe they need a scratching post. Maybe they need toys. And some of my clients are low income, and some of the things I suggest for people can be a little pricey. So I'm starting my own nonprofit, so when people, maybe they say to me, I really want to keep my cat, I want to follow your instructions, but I just can't afford a scratching post, or synthetic pheromone sprays are too pricey, it adds up. Now I'm going to have that ability to get grants and get funding and help low-income people who want to keep their cats in their home by providing financial support to buy some of the necessary items.
Well, that's amazing, and I wanted to thank you for debuting, announcing, revealing this amazing new project, this amazing new mission that you have on our show. So this is the official announcement for the new nonprofit started by, of course, the benevolent philanthropist Dr. Rachel Geller, who doesn't charge for her services because she is so passionate about saving and keeping 1,000 cats in their home every year. Her consultations are free. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I find that absolutely amazing. So she's on a mission to do that. And so as part of that mission, of course, she wants to help. She makes suggestions, right? So some of them cost money because obviously she doesn't wave a magic wand and cure your cat of whatever its problems are, but she makes suggestions that you then have to implement. And some of them involve buying things like a heat pad or a slow down bowl or a cat puzzle feeder, all these things, but they add up. And so what if you can't afford that? Then she's not going to just, spend her own money on you. She's already giving you her services for free. But what she's done is she's figured out how to start a nonprofit organization that can secure funding, get benefactors on board, donors, and whatever else the money comes from. It's one of the things I do other than cats is nonprofit organization management. So if you need my help, just let me know. But how wonderful is that? So if you can't afford it, well, you still have the ability to do what you need to do. So that's awesome. Thank you for announcing that. I love that. That is absolutely the best New Year's resolution, isn't it?
I'm really excited, and I did want to save it to announce on your show. I actually just finished the paperwork last week, and I was thinking, I'm not going to put it on my social media. I'm going to announce it with Cat Lady Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you can put it on social media. So I think that's really the coolest thing ever. And so that's really great. Thank you. I'm just I don't know what to say because that's really cool. It's the first time anyone's ever done that on this or the other show that I have is make an announcement like that because that is a big deal. It's a very big deal. So that's really cool and that's awesome for the new year. And I think that resolution is probably the best one. Mine, of course, as you know, is to continue working on this podcast and the Facebook page, the Kitty Boss, as well as the Cat Lady Justin sort of presence on social media, all for the purpose of launching the whole Kitty Boss thing with the book, the course, the hopefully eventually the products where I put those cartoons I have of Emily and Charlotte on. So it's going to be a whole thing, not a non-for-profit because that's not in my particular wheelhouse at the moment, but it is just something that I think I will support. I will continue to support you in those endeavors as much as I can. And so for me, really, the whole resolution is to get this launched, get this done. Now we have a comment that someone made, which I have no idea what it means. So this looks like a Cyrillic alphabet. So whoever this person is somewhere from Eastern Europe, I think. And I'm not sure what that means. FYI, I think means, for your information, but vor, I don't know what that means. So I'm going to hide that now, but thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I recognize the Cyrillic characters, but I don't know how to speak any of those languages. So thank you for your comment, and, hopefully that was a good thing, and she didn't just cuss us out or something, she just cursed us or something. So hopefully that's a good thing. But yeah, so that's really, really cool. And I guess the only other thing I was going to talk to you about this month is a little theme that I've had on all my social media posts and the podcast, the short ones that I do all the rest of the month, which is the 5-minute versions, which is this month I've been talking a lot about Persians. People wonder, is Charlotte, my brother asked me, he should know better. He asked me, is Charlotte a Persian? And I'm like, well, maybe she has some Persian in her, but she's definitely not Persian. She's a mixed breed. But before he was born, so he wouldn't know, we had a cat named Leah, and Leah was a beautiful beige Persian cat. So Persians are in my past, and they have very interesting issues that come along with them. On the health side of things, they get you need to clean their eyes, you need to clean their muzzle, they might have some respiratory, a bit like a pug dog, they have some respiratory conditions, but they also tend to have about a third of all Persian cats in the world tend to end up with PKD, or polycystic kidney disease. So you have to really watch your Persians, if you have one, for their physical health, because of the kidneys. They can end up enlarged, they can end up with urinary problems and other things. So it's something really interesting. But on the behavior side of things, we know that some breeds, and my opinion on cat behavior is we are a little bit too much prone to stereotype them, just like with people, to say, oh, well, it's a rag doll, so you can just play with it, manipulate it, do this. And all the Bengals are mischievous, and blah, 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 blah. So while there might be some truth and commonalities to these things, I think cats are very individual pets. They're VIPs, so there is too much variation to really pigeonhole them like that. So when it comes to Persians, are there any behavior stereotypes or commonalities that you would bring to our attention?
So, yeah, I always wanted to reiterate what you said about their special needs, and particularly with their special cases. They do tend to have respiratory needs, and also snoring. Interestingly enough, you'll hear your cat, when the cat is sleeping, the Persian cat, you'll hear them snoring. But they tend to be very gentle breeds. They're very affectionate. But I do agree with what you say. I mean, there's generalities, within breeds, but every cat is very different. And a lot of it has to do with the cat's environment. I mean, you can have a cat whose breed might tend to be more aloof or tend to be, have a certain trait. But if you have a breed that tends to be more aloof and the cat it's a very loving home and you desensitize and work with your cat, you can absolutely change a more aloof cat into a more affectionate cat. And so, if you have a breed that tends to be affectionate, like a Persian, and it's not a loving home, perhaps, unfortunately, it may be an abusive home, you're going to end up with a Persian cat who's not so trusting of human beings. So, environmental factors definitely come into play. And, even though breeds can have, certain tendencies or certain traits, I do feel, as you do, that each individual cat is a VIP, as you so aptly put it. They're definitely going to have their own preferences, their own needs, their own little, cute little mannerisms and so forth.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad you agree because I like being agreed with. No, I'm just kidding. It's interesting because those Persians, are cute cats. Leah was not as she was affectionate, but not like Emily and Charlotte. So my current, two who are mixed breeds, a short hair and a long hair, are very affectionate cats. Leah was nice. She wasn't, distant or anything, but not as effusive and affectionate and vocal as my two are. Funny about you mentioned the snoring because my Emily snores a little bit like a Persian. It's quite loud. In fact, last night I had to turn on a noise machine because my cat was keeping me awake with her snoring. and Charlotte snores a little bit, but not often and not every time. And so that's interesting. The other thing I was going to ask you, and this might be the last thing because we're almost at the 7:30 time for us, and so is I mentioned the health issues, right? Now, a lot of times what I need to remind people of is a behavior issue could be a purely behavioral issue from the environment, from the family, from the energy in the house, but it could also be stemming from some kind of physical issue. The cat could be in pain, could have something going on with it that it's not able to communicate to you or tell you, and therefore it's, manifesting as a behavioral problem. So I think my suggestion is always it's really important to rule out physical things when there's a behavioral thing, perhaps even at the same time, and not just to do it after you've already ruled out all the behavioral issues, because then it might be a little bit too late. Because PKD, for example, the polycystic kidney disease that the Persians are prone to, actually, if you catch it early, you can, be done with it and the cat can live a normal life. But if you wait just a little bit too long, then there's not much you can do other than help it to minimize its pain and, various things. So it's really important to catch it early, which is why I say to pay very close attention to their physical health, their urination and all that stuff. So the last thing I was going to ask you really is what your advice is when it comes to behavioral issues that manifest first or that are coming from a physical issue.
Yeah. So whenever a client contacts me with a behavior issue, the first thing I always say to them is we should rule out anything medical first. It's the first thing I always say. Because all of the behavioral intervention in the world is not going to do anything if the cat is suffering from some type of physical, or medical problem. So something like litter box. So, we were talking about cats with kidney issues. That can, kidney issue can absolutely manifest itself in litter box problems. If the cat has any problems or pain with urination, that cat won't use the box, but the cat will then associate the box with the pain. So if somebody comes to me with a litter box issue, I'll say, I want you to take your cat to the vet and rule out anything medical. Look for a urinary tract infection, kidney issues, kidney infections, bladder issues, even hyperthyroidism can cause litter box problems. But I'll say to them, concurrently, let's start attacking it behaviorally. So if it turns out that the medical, exam shows nothing's wrong, we're on the way to, helping the cat behaviorally. And if there is a medical issue, often sometimes I still will need to do behavioral intervention, but from a different lens, knowing that it's been caused by a medical issue. So yes, that was a long way of answering your question that yes, when a behavioral issue is presented to me, never automatically assume that the behavior may not have a medical underpinning to it, because many cat behaviors stem from a medical issue. Cats often hide their pain, and cats often can't get to the source of their pain, so they'll redirect it in other ways.
That's interesting. Yeah. So it's pretty much what I always suggest as well, which is either concurrently or first, let's go ahead and make sure that there's no physical problem going on with the kitty cat, because that is again, if they could talk, they'd probably tell you, oh, my side hurts, or my leg hurts, or whatever, or it hurts when I pee, but they can't talk, so they don't show it that way, and they communicate it otherwise, which is interesting because I know my cats very well, and so they communicate to me with actions very clearly sometimes. But one thing that it's a very recent finding actually, is that cats communicate responsively, and what I mean by that is that they so there's, again, like with the health issues and with the behavioral issues and and the tendencies and traits, there are a few broad generalities when it comes to the meowing, the vocalizations, that you could pretty much assume if it's growling and hissing at you, it's not happy, it's angry. And if it's purring, it's pretty happy or soothing or whatever. But as far as all the rest of the nuances go with the meowing, what's been found recently is that they're responsive, meaning they're adapting their meow to you, and they're observing you and the way you react to their meowing, and they're adapting the meow to basically, they're training you and saying, when I say this, you do that, when they discover that. And so interestingly, I've noticed some obviously trends with my cats, and which, like Charlotte uses the howl, the almost the mating call howl when she wants my attention, when she wants to get my attention, because she knows I will respond to that. Whether she's downstairs, I'll go downstairs. If she's upstairs and I'm in bed, that means wake up, I want you to play with me. So it's really interesting that she knows that one is the one that'll get my attention away from whatever I'm already focused on. And then she has other ones as well. And Emily has her own set, which are very different. Emily does not use that howling meow ever. I've never heard her do that, rarely, except maybe sometimes when she might have like a little stomach ache or something, and she's like running around because she's got a tummy ache or whatever. So that's the only time she'll use that one. So that's completely different than when Charlotte uses that one.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting because they will modify the meows based on how we react. And if your cat has a certain meow that she uses when she's hungry, and she notices that you start responding to a certain pitch or volume or intonation, she will then use that specific meow from then on to let you know that she's hungry. And cat owners will tell you that we know our cat's hungry meow, we know our cat's greeting meow, we know our cat's, I want to fetch meow. And really, cats are amazing communicators as long as we humans tune into what they're saying. But they really are very responsive and adaptive to their human beings. And that's because they love us and they want to communicate with us. It's really quite lovely.
It is wonderful, isn't it? And it's very different from dogs, because dogs don't generally modify their barking for you. They bark, and there's very stereotypical bark, bark, bark. And this kind of bark means that, and growling means it's angry, and that's it. And there's not too much variation in it. There is some, and there's some clever dogs that will do that. But in general, a dog just, barks. And it has its excited bark, it has its, hungry bark, it has its begging noises that it makes and all that. Whereas a cat it's almost like a much larger language, a bigger vocabulary, if you will.
Yes.
Some of us think it's because cats are smarter than dogs, but I don't want to offend my friends who love dogs. So I'm not going to say that, but I think we know that in general they're more intelligent creatures. Again, as a generality, there are of course stupid cats out there and brilliant dogs. The kinds that can figure out things and find people and all of that. So there's brilliant dogs and stupid cats, but in general, the cat is a much more clever creature, and of course it has affection. Much to my behest, a lot of countries still regard animals as non-sentient, and I think that's evil because cats are sentient. They do love you. They do miss you when you go. It's not just because you feed it and change the litter box. It's because they actually genuinely have affection for you. And it's weird. People who I find it quite annoying. People who disregard that and think, oh, it's not true. It's not a stuffed animal. It's a creature with love, with emotions, with feelings, and with thoughts as well. Now, granted, its thoughts are not as complex as yours or mine, thinking about the theory of relativity or whatever. But it does have thoughts. It has a life, and and a spirit. If you believe in that stuff, and if you don't believe in that stuff, fine. It has a life. It's living. It's not a virus or bacteria living. It's a complicated living with thinking patterns and everything that is not that much lower on the evolutionary scale than the human. In fact, they evolved with us very symbiotically over history, protecting our grain, keeping rodents out of our crops, doing a lot to develop that symbiotic relationship with human beings over the centuries. So I think
meow falls right in that category. So cats don't use meows to communicate with other cats. So if Puppy doesn't go up to Puppy and say, hey, meow, 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 and Puppy doesn't answer, yeah, meow. I mean, the cat's meow is mainly for human beings. So yes, to tag on to what you're saying, the meow is absolutely developed as a symbiotic relationship between cats and humans.
Yeah, and Charlotte is brilliant because Charlotte has this, I call it a roar, because it sounds like a high-pitched roar. And it's just lovely, and she knows I love when she does that, and she knows that it usually gets either affection or playtime, or it gets attention, or it gets me to sing to her, because she'll sometimes sing in response to that, and then I'm like, hello, and we have these whole lengthy conversations with it, and I think she enjoys it as much as I do, to be honest. But that's the thing. So those were really the topics I wanted to discuss with you today on this January thing. I wanted to discuss our resolutions, objectives, whatever you want to call them, for the year, as well as some of these topics that I've been talking about on the rest of the podcast and other social media channels, which is, of course, the Persians. And we then got into a little bit of the meowing and the nuancing and all that, which is really, really cool. So is there anything else you'd care to say or ask before I end off our episode today?
I think that was a perfect ending, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next month.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm looking forward to the month of love, which will be, of course, our theme for the month of February. How could it not be? With Valentine's Day, I think, being the week after, or a few days after we will be recording next month. So thank you once again. Good luck launching this. Say the name of the charity one more time.
So it's going to be called All Cats All the Time.
All Cats All the Time. So I love it. And like I said, the offer's there if you need any help. What I do, aside from cats, is nonprofit organization management. I'm actually chairman of one here and a non-executive director in another. So let me know if you need my help. I'll be honored and grateful to help you on that mission of, helping cats, obviously. I always tell people, I love people, but I like cats better.
I like that myself.
Exactly. I knew you would. So anyway, happy Cat Day, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Take care.